Hello everyone, welcome to the first tutorial on cultivating mindfulness-based resilience. This is a program that has been conducted in the prisons in the Philippines. So I'm sharing with you the version that was done in the women's prison, the Correctional Institute for Women in Mandaluyong City in Metro Manila. Commonly, we refer to this prison as CIW, Correctional Institution for Women. Let me start with the slides. So let's begin with the slides. Okay, so cultivating mindfulness-based resilience. Let me just show you very quickly the introduction that was done. Right?
Thank you. Good morning, sisters.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good.
Okay, I hope you are feeling good, getting ready for Christmas.
Yes.
So we're going to have a little bit of fun with the seminar also. The seminar is called Cultivating Mindfulness-Based Resilience. What is important here is there are three very important words. First is cultivating. The second word is mindfulness. And the third word is resilience. Cultivating means, for example, if you are a farmer and you want to plant rice, what do you have to do? You have to clear the land and you have to make sure the soil is ready and put some fertilizers. And then the important thing is you have to plant the seed. Planting the seed, and then you have to water the seeds. You water them, after some time it starts to grow. Then later you will have rice. You will benefit from it, you will profit from it. In the same way, this is about your mind. What I can do for you here is only to plant a seed in your mind. With this seminar, I am showing you some examples. I'm explaining certain things, hoping to plant a seed in your mind. You have to keep your mind clear. Don't make your mind confused and corrupted. Keep your mind clear, and then you have to provide nutriment and nourish the seed by feeding good thoughts, good feelings, remembering the good teachings, and then you will profit from this when it grows. It blossoms. Your mind will become mature and well developed, and you will actually be able to become very resilient. Right? So resilience is the key thing to help you build resilience. The second key word is mindfulness. Mindfulness means we actually pay attention to what goes on inside us. A lot of people have a wrong explanation or understanding of mindfulness. They thought that, oh, mindfulness, you pay attention what goes on outside. No. Can you change the things going on around you outside? No. Can you change what goes on inside you? Yes. So you pay attention what goes on inside you. And what are you observing? The important thing is, whatever happens out there, you have to observe how it affects you. Makes you feel angry, makes you feel sad, makes you feel frustrated, makes you feel fearful. So realize how it makes you feel. Now if you realize how it makes you feel, you can do something about it. You can help yourself become more peaceful. Right? So that is what mindfulness is about. Bring your attention inwards, observe what goes on inside you. Right? Don't care what goes on around you too much. Like people out there, very inay, huh? Yeah, never mind, don't worry about them. Okay? The important thing is, how does it affect me? Oh, it's making me feel unhappy. Okay, never mind. Relax. Right? So the important thing to overcome stress is to learn to relax. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Become mindful and learn to relax. Finally, the third key word is resilience. Resilience is the mental toughness to be able to recover from any problem. When something goes wrong, it hurts you, learn to recover from it. And not only recover learn how to live with it. That is adapting. Because inside CIW, you cannot do very much about your freedom. Unfortunately, you're all persons deprived of liberty. But you can learn to adapt, adjust yourself, and you can actually learn to enjoy the relationship with other people around you. People are very important. The people are the essence of a happy life. Right? So that is what these three words are.
Okay, that was the introduction. And in the introduction, I pointed out that three key words. The first keyword is cultivating. I was using the analogy that cultivating is similar to, well, or rather, cultivating the mind is similar to cultivating rice crops for harvest, that we got to clear the land and prepare the rice field. So in the same way, we have to keep our mind clear if we want to learn something and we want to do something positively with our mind. So keep our mind clear and planting the seed. All I was doing for them is to plant the seed in their mind. It's really up to them what they do with it. And this is using the rice field. This is what they should be doing with it. Water the field regularly. That means feeding it with fertilizers and nutrients. So in this case, for the mind, feed your mind with good feelings and good thoughts, positive feelings and positive thoughts. These are the nutrients. These are nutrients for good productivity of the mind, right? Good outcomes. It's basically treating yourself with compassion and help yourself to do better by feeding your mind with good feelings and positive feelings, good thoughts and positive thoughts, and keeping the environment clean and free from contamination. So that means stay away from things that disturb your mind, stay away from things that hurt your mind or contaminate your mind with bad thoughts. Stay away from things like, for instance, pornographic websites, those websites that talk about very bad things. Stay away from those, and political websites. I mean, don't get involved. Focus on living a good life. The only thing you can do about politics, I mean, you're not a politician. You can't do anything about politics. But the one time you can do something about it is when you cast your vote. So in a normal daily life, don't get messed up with all these things that are going on, right? Focus on keeping your mind clear, learning good things, and then doing something about it to help yourself. So keeping the environment free and free from contamination, get rid of insects and harmful pests. Similarly, we frequently come across thoughts or come across incidents that may hurt us, harm us, and destroy our peace of mind. So get rid of those things. Stay away from it. I'll teach you later a simple technique, which I call, well, never mind. And that's the way we free ourselves from these things that disturb us. And of course, finally, when the time comes to harvest the crop and profit from the rice, the rice harvest, in the same way, there'll come a time when you can profit from these good thoughts that you learn, good things that you learn. So I hope today's sharing on cultivating mindfulness-based resilience will provide some inputs on how you can build this resilience, and you can profit from this when the ability to build resilience matures. So this is why the word cultivating is important. And then, of course, the second word is mindfulness. Basically, what happens out there around us, we really have no control what happens around us. I mean, we can't control what other people are saying to us. We may be able to influence it by being friendly to them. When you care for people and you're friendly to them, then, of course, they care for you in return, or they speak good words to you in return. That is influence, but we can't control them. So therefore, we really don't have control over what goes on around us. We do have quite a bit of control over what goes on inside our mind. And this is what I was trying to impress upon them. And that's what mindfulness is all about. The important thing about mindfulness has been around for thousands of years. It was originally taught in the Vedic tradition The Vedic tradition dates back 3,000 to 4,000 years, and that's the origin of the religion that people commonly call Hinduism. It's also taught in yoga before the time of Buddha. Then, of course, 2,600 years ago, Buddha came along and actually taught mindfulness in a very clear and systematic way. So basically, it's about bringing your attention inwards, looking at what goes on inside. And what are you looking at? Basically, observe how we get affected by what goes on outside. We can't control what goes on outside, but we can observe what goes on inside us when all these things happen, and we can do something about it. Because if you know what is happening inside you, you at least have half a chance already to do something about it. So this bringing your attention in is very important. And this is the essence of the teaching of mindfulness based on the Vedic, the yogic, and the Buddhist tradition. So the Buddha has been teaching this quite a lot. So teachings of mindfulness has been around for thousands of years. And in the Buddhist tradition, it is called satipatthana, which is commonly translated as mindfulness. Now, I want to clarify one important point right now. There is this word called mindful, and there is this word called mindfulness. When I use the word mindfulness, I'm referring to the teachings based on this Buddhist tradition, the Buddhist teaching on mindfulness. But the word mindful normally refers to people paying attention to things going on around us. So when we say, oh, be mindful of what's happening, basically people are referring to, oh, pay attention to what goes on around us. Now, that is a common use of the word be mindful. I'm not referring to that when I talk about mindfulness. Whenever I use the word mindfulness, I'm referring to the teachings of the Buddha about mindfulness, bringing attention inwards. So when we bring attention inwards in the Buddhist tradition, we're looking at 4 different aspects of the mind and the body. The first 2 deals with the body, the next 2 deals with the mind. Basically, observing changes in the body. Basically, this is the stress reaction in the body. Stress begins with something happening in the body, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. So observing changes in the body, observing sensations and feelings in the body, and then observing how emotions are being aroused and we begin to be affected by it. That's why it's called affective process. Affective process in the field of psychology refers to emotions, basically. So this arousal of emotions, how it affects us, and then arising of thoughts, concepts, intentions, and this is our response. If we are aware of what's going on and we think positively, then we can think of a way to respond to what's going on. That's really what mindfulness is about, bringing the attention inwards. I'll talk a little bit more about it later on. But the key thing is to differentiate between what the Buddhist tradition teaches about mindfulness versus what people normally call be mindful, right? So be mindful is talking about paying attention to what goes on around you. Well, we should always be mindful, but the teaching of mindfulness is about observing those 4 areas of things happening inside us, in the body and in the mind. I'll talk a little bit more about the body first, because that is a very important part of the whole process, okay? And the important thing to be aware of is that when something happens around us, it affects us one way or another, causing changes in the body. So bodily discomfort arises, causing problems in the mind. So mental disturbance arises, and these affect our bodily comfort and our mental composure. So the body becomes uncomfortable, the mind becomes agitated. So we have to be aware of this, and that's where this term mindfulness comes in. So that if we are aware of something, we can do something about solving the problem, okay? And of course, the third word is resilience. And resilience, I define it as the ability to recover from the problem and adapt to the new realities. So these 2 phases, the recovery phase and the adaptation phase. Recovery basically means rising up when something goes wrong. We are able to rise up right? And get ourselves ready to respond positively. And that means now we are able to adjust ourselves to the new realities, the new circumstances, so that if the same problem happens again, we will not be so badly affected by it. We learn from it. Learning is key. We learn from it, okay? So that's really what resilience is about: recover and adapt. And I'm referring to the mental toughness to recover, that is rising up, and the mental agility and flexibility to adapt. And that is how we can respond better, so that in future we are able to be able to respond better when the same problem arises or similar problems arise. So let's take a look at the second part.
Mindfulness-based resilience. It's all about recovering from stress, getting over stress, and learning how to do better, okay? Improve yourself. So what makes us stress? There are three things happening around us that make us stress. First, emotional things happening around us, arousing our emotions, encountering things that make us feel very emotional, fear, anger, anxiety, and all that. First, so when we become emotional, we become stressed. The second is problems, adversities, threats, and conflicts. Encountering problems, difficulties, troubles, all that, right? So all that can cause us become very stressed if something goes wrong. Third is uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen next. So uncertainty can lead to stress. Unexpected things happening, unfamiliar circumstances, changes, complexity, okay? So these are the three major things happening around us that make us very stressed. So let's take a look at how stress affects our brain. It affects the brain, and I'll explain more in a moment.
There is a part of the brain called the amygdala that produces stress reactions in our body. The amygdala constantly scans all sensory inputs from the environment. When it detects any sign of threat or danger, it triggers the stress chain reaction in the body, releasing stress hormones that flood through the body, causing various organs to react. This is the fight, flight, or freeze reaction.
So stress causes us to react with fight, flight, or freeze. Fight means if something happens, we want to get rid of it, we want to remove it, we want to fight against it. That is fight. Flight means if something goes wrong, we want to run away from it, escape from it. That is flight. Sometimes when something goes wrong and we are confused, we don't know what's happening, we freeze. Sometimes we freeze, I'll give you an example. You know, if I were to throw a basketball at you, what will you do? What will you do if I throw a basketball at you? You will catch it. How about you? What will you do?
You want to stop it.
You will stop it. Anyone else? Some of you may want to bend down and avoid it. Ivan? Okay. When you catch it, or when you stop it, that is called fight. You want to challenge the problem. You want to get rid of the problem. That is called fight. Right? Sometimes it's not good because when you fight it, it makes you more stressed. Okay? So fight is to stop the ball or push the ball away. But if you bend down, avoid it, turn around, run away, that is called flight. To run away, escape from it. So typically we have two kinds of reaction. We either try to stop it or we try to escape from it. Alright, fight or flight. But sometimes we are confused, we don't know what to do, so we freeze. And people freeze, what happens? The basketball will go boing on the face. See? So that happens to children. Some of you may know. If you have a little child, 2 years old maybe, and you take a balloon, not the basketball is too strong, it will hurt the boy. You throw the balloon at the boy, Usually the little boy, 2-year-old, will look at the balloon and go on the face. Freeze, freeze. Why? Because the little boy has never experienced that before. So the first time you throw the balloon at the little boy, it'll hit his face and he'll go. But if you do that a few more times, then the boy learns, oh, balloon, I better knock it away, or I bend down. So the boy will learn to fight or flight. And the same thing with everybody. We learn to fight or flight against problems, against disasters, against emotional encounters, against uncertainties, against problems. But that is not always good, because we cannot always change what's going on outside. If somebody is bad to you, say terrible things to you, say very bad words towards you, can you stop him? No, you have no control over what other people are saying. But you have control over yourself. And what is the best way to overcome stress? Learn to relax. And that's the important thing. So today, we're going to look at different ways we can learn to relax so that we can recover from the stress and we can adapt ourselves, adjust ourselves. And to recover and adapt, that is resilience. Okay? So, fight, flight, or freeze. What does it do to us? There's something changed in the body. It affects the whole body. When we are stressed, our whole body is affected. Right? For example, when we are stressed, the brain sends a signal to the adrenal gland above our kidney to release very powerful stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. These are very powerful stress hormones. They will flow throughout our body and cause changes in the body. Heart will beat faster. Our breathing will deepen. Our digestive system will be suspended. Our muscles become very tense. When you're stressed, you're all tense, right? When you're stressed, you're not relaxed, you're tense. Not only that, it will cause our hair to stand on end. What do I mean by that? You see, sometimes when you watch a horror movie, then you get tingling sensation, you feel something on around your hair, goosebumps, goosebumps. That is your hair standing on end. See? We cannot see it because human being, the hair is very tiny, you cannot see. Right? But the hair will stand on end. Okay? And pupils dilate, your eyes will open up, because when you're stressed, you look at things with wide open eyes. You want to see what's going on, what is hurting you. You want to do something about it. And your facial expression is distorted. You look very angry, because that's what happens when you're stressed. Your face is like that. Your face is not relaxed by mind. That's up. Okay. And you start to sweat, perspire, tremble, body temperature rising. All this is not healthy for you. It causes your skin to dry up. It causes your internal organs to become sick. No good. It causes a lot of sickness. And your skin will dry up. So if you are not careful, right, it will cause a lot of other things. For example, you can see the cat on the top left side. The hair standing on end. Yeah? The facial expression distorted. The eyes open up. The man also. Right? That is all stress. You have to be careful. If you don't learn to relax, it can cause your skin to dry up and then you look like that. You want to look like that? No! You can see this person had a very stressful life. So if you look around you and you see people whose skin is all dry up and wrinkly, it's because they have experienced a lot of stress. Even at young age, at 30, 40 years old, they start to have wrinkles. But if you learn to relax, you can have nice, good skin like mine. Yeah? Even at my age, I don't have wrinkly skin, right? Just look at me only, just looking only, huh? Don't get something else. Just look at my face, my body, my smile. How old do you think I am? 45. Oh, thank you. Anyone? 55. Oh, thank you. I am 68. See, learn to relax. Okay? Right.
And in this second video, this is really talking about stress, right? Stress, a lot of people think that stress happens outside. No. What happens around us, that is not stress. Stress is something that happens inside us. So let's take a look at what happens inside us. So things happen around us, produce the stress reaction inside us. So what makes us stress? So I basically mentioned there are three categories of things happening around us that make us stress. First is emotional things, anything that arouses emotions. Like, for example, getting the news of a dearly beloved relative has just passed away, and that arouses our emotions. So emotional things. So I call this a traumatic experience, emotional experiences, arousing emotions. The second thing is problems arising or something that appears to be threats or conflicts to our peace and comfort. Right? So that means something that threaten us, right? Adversities, problems, something going wrong, difficulties. So this is the second category. And the third category is things that we don't know what's going to happen next, uncertainties, causing a lot of confusion and perplexity. And this can be anything that could be happening around us that create this perplexity. Now, if you think about people incarcerated in the prisons, they experience all three. Every day, they are faced with a lot of challenges. I'll give you an example. In the prison, they have no freedom for their own schedule, right? Not only they are deprived of liberty in the open world, they're not allowed to leave the prison. Not only are they incarcerated inside, they also have to follow very strict regimen of schedules. For example, in Correctional Institute for Women, there is a roll call 5 times a day. That means there are 5 occasions in a day where everybody has to assemble and they will count the heads to make sure that in every section, the people are there, nobody is missing. They divide them into dormitories, different dorms. There is a certain number there. So every day they will count 5 times a day. How many are there, anyone missing? That is very disturbing to a person's life. So living in the prison, they really have no freedom, right? So this kind of things, this kind of schedules make people, feel fearful or angry and distressed and frustrated, disgusted, and so on. And they can't, because they don't have freedom, there are many things they can't do. And whatever they can do, sometimes things go wrong. And they also have families outside where those family members encounter problems. So it arouses this stress reaction inside them and uncertainties. When you are incarcerated in a place like the prisons in the Philippines, you really don't know when you're going to be released. Sometimes when they are sentenced to a certain period, and they may end up staying there longer than that. And I won't go into details about that, but basically, there's a lot of uncertainty, confusion, and perplexity. So this is the kind of things going on that arouse this stress reaction inside them. Remember, stress is not what goes on out there. What goes on out there, we call this stressors, things that are happening around us. These 3 different categories of things happening, we call them stressors, or they're triggers. Trigger to arouse stress. Stress is what goes on inside us. We have no control over this arising. When something goes wrong, it triggers this stress reaction arising. This stress reaction is a chain reaction. That means there's a series of things happening. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Stress happens, and that's not always bad. Starting a new job or getting married can both be happy things, but they can also be really stressful. There's some kinds of stress that just don't seem to go away, though, like the feeling that you're drowning in work but still perpetually worried about making ends meet. If you deal with a lot of stress every day for months or years on end, then stress doesn't just feel awful, it actually causes you physical harm. Psychologists call any event or situation that puts pressure on you or threatens your well-being a stressor, while stress refers to your psychological and physical reactions.
When you're stressed, the fear center in the brain, called the amygdala, takes over. The brain sends out a distress call, which results in the adrenal glands located above the kidneys releasing hormones that speed up your heartbeat and breathing and push more blood to your muscles. Once the threat passes, your stress response winds down. For our prehistoric ancestors being chased by wild animals, this fight or flight response could be very useful, but in the modern world, it's a problem when the perceived threat never goes away. When the brain is under constant stress, it can change in ways that make you even more vulnerable to stress. A constant flood of stress hormones can also do damage by weakening your immune system, leaving you more prone to infections. It may trigger inflammation that puts you at greater risk for conditions like heart disease and diabetes. Learning how to cope with stress can help minimize these effects. Try practicing relaxation techniques like meditation, yoga, or deep breathing.
Our body's reaction to stress can take a toll on our health if not managed. In response to stress, your nervous system releases a flood of stress hormones, including two called adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart pounds faster, muscles tighten, blood pressure rises, breath quickens, and senses become sharper. If you have a lot of responsibilities and worries, your stress may be on most of the time. The more your body's stress system is activated, the harder it is to shut off.
So this stress chain reaction triggers the fight or flight reaction. There's also freeze, I mentioned already. Freeze is when you encounter something for the very first time, you don't know what's going on, so you freeze up. Fight is when you want to get rid of the problem, you want to fight against it, you want to stop it. That is fighting. Flight is you want to avoid it, you want to escape from it, you want to run away from it. Whether you fight it, whether you want to run away from it, both reactions produce this stress chain reaction inside us. It makes us even more stressed. So what happens to us physiologically? So there is a part of the brain called the amygdala, and that is triggered. And when that reacts, it sends signals to our glands. And the adrenal gland located above the kidney, we have two of them, one on each side for a normal person. This adrenal gland releases very powerful stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, and as well as a whole lot of other hormones. But the two main hormones, stress hormones, are adrenaline and cortisol. They flood through the whole body, causing changes in the body. So the body changes first in a stress reaction. The body changes first. What happens? So when these hormones reach the heart, they cause the heart to beat faster. That's why our heartbeat it goes faster when we get stressed. And it also causes the blood pressure to rise, so that this higher blood pressure and the pumping, the faster heartbeat, and also respiration to quicken, the breathing is deepened. All this will help to spread these hormones throughout the body and causing things like intestinal movement to be suspended, muscles to be all tense. So a whole lot of chain reaction physically, physiological chain reaction. Hair standing on end, the pupils dilating, the eyes wanting to see what's going on. All these are evolved. Whenever we are stressed, we want to see what's happening, trying to overcome, fight it, or trying to escape, flight. So fight or flight. And then the facial expression is distorted because this is evolutionary past. All animals, when they are frightened or when they are stressed, they create this very fierce-looking facial expression. in order to frighten away the predator. And this has evolved over millions of years, and humans are no different. So we have this very ugly and angry and fearsome facial expression, basically trying to frighten away the predator. So this is something that has evolved over millions of years. And of course, the body perspiration, trembling, all this is happening. And as well as producing more energy to fight or run away. So the blood sugar rises, which can cause all kinds of diseases like diabetes and so on. You can see, if you look at all this, blood sugar rising causes diabetes. Facial expression distorted, causing all kinds of lines in your face, and your pupils dilating. When you get old, your eyesight will weaken because your pupils dilate too frequently. So if you are stressed often, when you get old, your vision will become poorer. Right? Your eyesight will weaken as you age if you go through a lot of stress. And when your muscles tense too much, it causes so much discomfort. People need a massage, or they may even try to take some relaxation pills, and all this is not good for your body. And intestinal movement suspended worsens, ulcers inside your stomach, and so on. And respiration deepens, may cause hyperventilation. Heartbeat and blood pressure rises, causes hypertension, right? So we become sick from stress because of these stress hormones flooding through the body. So the only way to reduce, first, you must prevent it from getting out of control. So there are two things you got to do. First, prevent it from getting out of control. And that is where relaxation comes in. So if you don't react, when you feel stress and you don't react right away, you reduce the possibility that stress gets out of control. So therefore, learn not to react, right, to things that are always happening around us. When we react too much, it creates this chain reaction, this stress chain reaction. If we learn to pause and not react, it reduces the opportunity for stress to get out of control. Then you need to learn to relax with breathing. So relaxation with breathing can help you reduce and get rid of this stress reaction that has already happened. I'll talk more about this breathing and pause, relax, and think. I'll talk more about this in the next tutorial. Basically, it's a simple 3-step self-compassion. Things go wrong, pause, don't react, then breathe and relax, so that now your mind calms down and your body becomes more comfortable. And then you're ready to think. When your body is more comfortable and your mind is more composed, you're ready to think of a good way of responding. So those are the 3-step self-compassion I will talk about more in the next tutorial. Pause, relax, think. Okay, I'll come to that in the next tutorial. But let's look at this stress chain reaction. It's a vicious cycle of chain reaction happening in the body. This is why mindfulness is observing the changes in the body and the feeling arising, how it affects us, right? This affective process, how it affects us, both physically, physiologically, as well as emotionally and cognitively. So that's really what mindfulness is about, observing this happening in us. When we are aware this is happening, then we can do something about it, okay? So let's take a look at the actual process of how stress arises. This was not mentioned in the seminar, but I'll explain it here. We have these 5 senses. So whatever the eye sees, signals are sent through the optic nerves to the brain. And similarly, when we hear, auditory nerves carry the signal to the brain. And when we smell something, olfactory nerves carry the signal to the brain. The same with the tongue and the same with the whole body feeling. This somatosensory nerves carrying sensations of physical touches, hand, body, whatever the body comes into contact with. This is then, all these signals are sent to the brain from the 5 physical senses. The brain processes it. Now, very quick one. I won't go so deep into talking about the brain, but basically, the brain is basically described of having three main layers. The oldest is the survival brain called the brain stem. Then the middle part is called the limbic system. This is what is commonly called the emotional brain. And finally, the outer part of the brain, the cerebral cortex, normally called the learning brain. They are not strictly confined to those functions, but basically that part of the brain is largely responsible for those functions. Brainstem is largely responsible for survival. Limbic system is largely responsible for our emotions, and cerebral cortex is largely responsible for our learning and our thinking. Right? And in the limbic system, there is a part of the brain called the amygdala. This is connected to the hippocampus. The hippocampus is like the librarian of your memory. The hippocampus doesn't store your memory. Basically, it's a librarian. That means it knows which part of your brain is storing memory of a certain experience. So whenever the amygdala is aroused, it actually triggers memory arising very quickly. All this happens in split second. So this part of the brain called amygdala, it actually is the first part of the brain that detects the five senses happening. When it is able to detect something which it may recognize from the memory, oh, something like that has happened in the past, it triggers a chain reaction of the memory. But it also causes a chain reaction of sending signals to your glands, right? So the purpose of this amygdala is really to scan sensory perceptions from our five senses. And then when it senses something that is potentially a threat or a danger to the organism, it starts to react, right? And this reaction is the stress reaction. So therefore, the amygdala is evolved, right, to protect us from harm. That's why it has a paradoxical function. The first is it's like a bodyguard. So it is evolved to detect some threats and conflicts from the environment and then trigger the release of stress hormones so that we can fight against it. If your body is not ready for it, if your muscles are not ready to fight, then you can get easily overwhelmed by what goes on. So that's why this stress reaction is not really all that bad in terms of why it is arising. Stress reaction arises to help us protect us from harm, fighting or running away from whatever is threatening us. So that's why the amygdala can be seen as a bodyguard, right? The bodyguard in the body. But the bodyguard in the brain. But what can go wrong is it is unnecessarily aroused. And then it is aroused by emotions. And when it is unnecessarily aroused, it is now causing the body to become stressed for no good reason. And this is like a terrorist in the brain. So you can see the amygdala has paradoxical functions in the brain. It is both a bodyguard, it's also a terrorist if it is unnecessarily aroused. So when something goes wrong, and if it is threatening our life, then this stress reaction helps us save our life. So that's the bodyguard part. But if something happens around us and we unnecessarily, perceive it to be threats and conflicts and start to react against it, it's like a terrorist causing the body to change. So how does the body change? Now, before I go into that, there's another part of the brain, the cerebral cortex. This is our learning brain. This is helping us to overcome, or rather, it's playing the two roles. The amygdala is the part which hurts, which can have a chain reaction, a stress chain reaction that may hurt us, but the learning brain can also help us. So what does the learning brain do? The learning brain actually is responsible for these functions, the cerebral cortex, right? Attention, long-term memory, logic, critical thinking, imagination, creativity, decision-making, goal-setting, planning, judgment, reasoning, rationalizing. It's the last two lines that are very critical. Decision-making. So this part of the brain right behind the eyebrow is called the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for decision-making, goal-setting, planning, judgment, reasoning, rationalizing. It is these functions that can help us if we use them wisely. So we decide, right, when something goes wrong, we decide to respond positively. So it's a decision-making process. And then we set the goal. Then something goes wrong, we want to accomplish, the ultimate is peace, comfort, and happiness, right? So set the right goals. And then the mind goes into a planning process, how we can go about it. And we are able to distinguish by judgment what is right from wrong, what is good from bad, what is helpful from harmful. And we can reason out that this chain reaction, if we do this, that will happen. It's like the karmic reaction that if we do the right thing, good things will happen to us. If we do the wrong thing or evil things, then bad things will happen to us. Reasoning and rationalizing so that we can apply our resources in the right way to help us solve problems. So that's what the learning brain is all about, helping us to solve problems. If we use it wisely, make good decisions, set good goals, plan in a positive, productive way, and have good judgment over right from wrong, good from bad, and reason out what helps us, rationalize how we expend our resources, physical and mental resources, as well as material resources, then we can have a happy life if we learn to do that. So that is the part of the brain that can help us. The part of the brain, if we don't take good care of it, can hurt us, is the amygdala. So now this stress reaction happens inside us. And a very famous endocrinologist by the name of Hans Selye described this. He actually wrote a lot about it. He calls this the General Adaptation Syndrome, GAS, General Adaptation Syndrome. I won't go much deeper into it. I'll just give you a very quick overview of what it is. Basically, it's categorized by 3 stages of things happening in sequence. First, when something happens around us, it produces this alarm reaction, this instantaneous freeze, fight, or flight in the body, mobilizing sympathetic nervous system to try to fight or run away from the problem. Or if it is something totally unfamiliar, freeze. So this is the organism's physiological reaction. And then there is a psychological reaction. Following this physiological reaction, the stage of resistance arises, and we begin to recognize what the threat is, and when we try to cope with it. Now, if we fail to be able to cope with it, the 3rd stage arises called exhaustion. And this can lead to PTSD, depression, and expiration of the organism. That means the organism dies. We die. We can either die by cardiac arrest, heart attack, and die. And so a lot of people end up like that, heart attack, and they die. Or they may even have this evil intention upon themselves, committing suicide. So that's how it can get totally out of control. So I won't go much deeper into that. I suggest you can use Wikipedia, you can use Google, or even you can use whatever artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, to look up General Adaptation Syndrome, stress chain reaction, as mentioned by Hans Selye. So you can look it up yourself. So that's why we need to cultivate mindfulness-based resilience to help us to be more, to calm down, and for the body to relax, for us to be more peaceful and find more happiness in life. That's why we need to learn and cultivate mindfulness-based resilience to become resilient, right? And I have defined this mindfulness-based resilience as the mental toughness. Not only the mind is tough, but also agility, agile, ability to adapt. So basically, it's the ability to firstly recover quickly from whatever problem and adapt easily. And the 3 kinds of problems: traumatic experiences, emotional, arousing emotions, Adversities, that means problems and threats and conflicts happening, and uncertainties, confusion and perplexity. So mindfulness-based resilience is the mental toughness and agility with the ability to recover quickly and adapt easily to traumatic experiences, adversities, and uncertainties. All I can do in this seminar is plant the seed in your mind. All I can do in this tutorial is to help you understand better what it's all about so that you have an opportunity to learn about. I can only plant the seed. The rest is up to you. That's why I always have this saying, if it is to be, it is up to me, okay? So the rest is up to you. I can only plant the seed. So that's what this is all about. This is the introduction where we talk about the introduction and this stress chain reaction, fight, flight, or freeze, stress chain reaction. Okay. The key thing to remember, things happening out there. We have very little control. We only have more control over what goes on inside us. So if we practice mindfulness and become aware of what goes on inside us, how the body is affected, how sensations arise, and how the mind is disturbed, when we are aware of that, we have a better control over how we respond to it in a positive way and learn to become comfortable, peaceful, and happy. So this is really what mindfulness-based resilience will help us in. I learn to become more comfortable, peaceful, and caring so that we lead a happier life, okay? So this is the first tutorial. I will do these tutorials every few days. So maybe roughly twice a week, not more than that because it takes time to prepare. So roughly once or twice a week. So I am planning the next one, tutorial number 2, in about 3 or 4 days' time. So watch out for this in the chat forum that you're in, whether it is in one group or the other. You just pay attention to any posting on that, okay? So this is the end of this first tutorial. I will then do tutorial number 2 in about 3 or 4 days' time. Thank you very much. That is the end of today's tutorial. May you be well, comfortable, peaceful, and happy. Thank you.